right, everybody. Aouar at last. Welcome to the latest edition of Saved by the Bellerin, the Arsenal football podcast here on the Sports Talk Line Network. Joining you, I'm Raphael, joining you from the United States, joined this week by my English cohort, Sam. Welcome, Sam.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. Aouar, a lot to talk about in this episode. Obviously, we can recap the Leicester win in the Carabao Cup midweek. Obviously, Liverpool is coming up on Monday, but the news of the day begins and ends with one word, one name, Aouar. Sam, what we saw, and all of you out in Podland, Videoland, what you saw was just a little clip from Telefoot Chan, the English, or the French rather, channel in France that ran this story within the hour, saying that Aouar has agreed personal terms with Arsenal. He wants to come to Arsenal, and it's now simply a matter of the two clubs hashing out an agreement over price. It's not official yet, Sam, but boy, it looks very, very, very close.
Yeah, for me and for Arsenal don't tend to agree personal terms with a player and then not follow it up with a bid. And they only tend to follow it up with a bid when they're extremely confident they can get the deal done. The bid was put in apparently yesterday. Eluse come out and said that, had the interview saying that Arsenal may be in financial difficulty. But as we all know with him and the way that he conducts deals, and to steal your line, he has tough love towards his players. He tends to play the lines along, oh, we don't want to sell, but we have to. The player made it clear that he wants to go. He tends to turn on the player quite a bit. But ultimately, the bid's gone in. Usually, if the media gets wind of it, they usually come straight out saying, oh, the bid's been rejected. But from what I've seen today, all across the media, it's not been rejected. It's been negotiated. So, as you were saying at the top of the show, it's I believe it's just a case now of Arsenal and Lyon finding the right payment structure, and then that deal's good to go and done.
And let's stay with Alas, because as we said, this gentleman has the bedside manner of a cactus, and it's not just that he's difficult towards the player once he loves them and then he pushes them out the door, but he's just as prickly with clubs he's negotiating. And you know, all of you who are following here know, we go back to the Lacazette negotiation a couple of years ago, but when he talks about Arsenal, you know, it seems like the more abuse he throws at you, it's kind of like, I hate you, but oh, give me your money, right? It's this bid, like the more abuse he's thrown at you, it's like the closer you know you're getting. It's that very kind of a sadistic kind of love-hate when you're negotiating with Jean Alas. And that he was saying, you know, he was really poor-mouthing Arsenal a few days ago. Well, I don't know if they have the money, right? You know, and I think it was Ryan who put it in our group chat on Tuesday or before Tuesday's show, that he said these exact same things about Arsenal, that they're too poor, they're not good enough, they're not big enough, just talking them down, talking to them, all in the week before Lacazette finally came to Arsenal. And now we're seeing the same arc, the same discussion. And then suddenly very quiet. As you said, 2 days ago, he didn't know if they were poor. And what we've learned in the French press is that Lyon is quite poor. They have a massive debt. I don't know if you are as manic about this as I've been. I check L'Equipe almost daily. Big story yesterday that they had 4 players that they anticipated would bring them a lot of money in this market, where they need money, where they don't have Champions League this year. They don't have European football at all. They expected Depay to bring them money. They expected Aouar to bring them money. They were Ren Adelaide, and I think maybe Dembele was going to be the 4th. And they've had almost no market. And the only player who was bringing any sort of return or anticipated return was Jeff Ren Adelaide, and his was the smallest price tag of them all. So Alas is talking a big game, to me, the more I hear this, the more abuse I hear, the better I feel if I'm an Arsenal partisan. I don't know about you.
Yeah, definitely. As you say, you can see where the deal is, where on the loose abuse meter, so to speak, and it's at the moment it's quite high. So we know that this deal has been discussed internally with Arsenal since the cup final. So they know the profile of the player. No doubt they've been speaking to the player through intermediaries to gauge whether he wants to come. Obviously, we've had to register an interest in him to Lyon to be able to then speak to the player properly. So in that aspect, to agree the terms. Alous, he's where I see it being right now is with Alous, he's at the stage of, I don't know whether Arsenal's got the money. The next thing, as we know, the bid's gone in. Nobody knows the actual total package of the deal. It's been reported that it's 35 million euros. But to me, I think that that's probably the base, but there'd probably be 10 to 15 million euros as add-ons. So I think with him, next, if we hear from Alous again, I think the next one will be, well, we had no choice because we're skint. We need to get players in. We need to get replacements in. And we've been able to do that on reduced prices in terms of Paqueta from AC Milan and getting them TT in on loan, which I would imagine Barca will cover the majority of the wages. But with him, he's in the two stages at the moment. Next one's going to, as I say, be, he's going to come out and say, I've got no choice but to accept this. And then further on to that, I would
follow this, Sam, in the melodramatic terms. He's going to say, I had no choice, but he's going to lay it on the player. He said, he betrayed us. He was disloyal. We're going to see.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It's all a noir. He's not with Leon anymore. It's the tears are going to flow. It's the melodrama, and I'm fine with that. He comes. We did this with Lacazette, but let's talk about a couple of items. Let's stay with the player. We're so focused on the deal, right? Realistically, he's coming. He's on a red card. He would have to miss a match, correct? One match.
Believe so, unless Lyon have played between now and then, which I don't believe they have. Although their official account was saying his next game will be his 100th game.
Right.
So I'm not overly sure in that aspect, but if they're tweeting the next one's going to be his 100th game, I'd assume that he'd be playing, or at least on the bench. But as it could be, 100 and out for him.
And then the betrayal will happen.
Yeah, because right. as we know with Aouar, he is the prodigal son of Alous. So Alous has literally instructed managers to build a team around Aouar, and if we're removing him at the prices that are being touted at the moment, we've got an absolute bargain on our hands here.
Okay, so I'm just hearing seeing in the chat that the ban is over. Just wishful thinking that could he play against Liverpool? I don't think that even if they got him in tomorrow, it's probably too soon. But just let's talk about this in a practical sense. What a jolt that would give to the club, to the people who are playing, knowing that he's coming and he's here. He's been touted. This is Mikel's priority. This is a guy. We know, we've watched these two matches. We're going to talk about Leicester in a moment. He's exactly the jolt that this midfield needs. That forward thrust, that spark, if you will.
Yeah, it puts the current players on notice. They know if they want to retain their place, they're going to have to perform better, basically. Because over the last couple of games, some performances could be questionable, but ultimately, as a team, I think they need this to really thrust us forward. Although we have come away with the wins, But performance-wise, again, it's been questionable. But with him signing, it'll be a big boost to everybody in the club. And as we all know, competition breeds better performances on the pitch.
And before we move on to the next possible transfer, let's stay with this. Any bid anywhere south of 45 million pounds, at least to me, for this player at this age, at this stage of his career, this is a bargain for Arsenal, no matter how you slice it.
Oh, without a doubt. There's no two ways about it. So at the prices being touted, it's an absolute bargain for a player of his ability. If we wasn't in a COVID time, you'd probably be looking, I don't know, about 80, 90 million, I'd say. The way that transfers were going, at a push, 100 with add-ons.
Okay. All right. And we'll take that with both hands. Aouar has been linked in a package in the minds of Arsenal fans, in the rhetoric of the club, of the management, with Thomas Partey. They're like a two-step, and we've debated endlessly. Is it better to do Aouar first than Partey? Our consensus here is that because Partey has a fixed release clause that can be triggered at any time, and Aouar doesn't, and Olas is such a prickly negotiator, as we said, his price could be yanked up to 50, 60 at whim. We could make the bid that they want, and then they could back off and say, no, we've changed our mind. We want 15 million more. So it does seem that Arsenal is following that step, but some very intriguing, I don't know if those of you out there saw it this morning, some very intriguing images from Thomas Partey. Has a lot of people spinning conspiracies, scratching their heads, wondering about it. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Sam?
Yeah. So on Thomas Partey's Instagram story, he posted the story with himself in a car with the manager of his agency. As we know, Atletico Madrid had their roll call yesterday and their media day for the 2021 season, the promotional day. Thomas Partey and a few others like João Felix was not involved in what was shown out by the Atletico Insta video. But for me, it's a bit strange because if he was going back to training, why would you need the manager of your agency to go along with you? There's no logical explanation. If he was signing a new contract there'd be a lot of noise around that from the Atletico journalists, media outlets, and whatnot. If he's in the car, well, say if he's in the car, when he's in the car with the top guy of his agency, it's a bit baffling because it might have been a case of him going to the club and saying, okay, like they're prepared to put the money on the table, I'm off. I don't know if that was the case, but it may be another case of secretly it might have been going to the La Liga HQ to buy out his contract. But again, all the Arsenal outlets, France, Italy, and whatnot, are all concentrating on Aouar at the moment. It might be a case of Arsenal doing this secretly in the background and getting prepared for a double deal.
But let's look at the flip side, because we've been saying this again for some time. It's not a matter of money; it's a matter of squad size. In order to bring both of them in, they have to clear space. Now we know there was rumors yesterday. It's all over the place. Let's take them player by player. Socrates. It seemed that he was going to Napoli. Then there's stories that Arsenal had bought him out of his contract, as they did with Mkhitaryan. But I heard chatter yesterday that West Ham have come in with a bid for him. I'm not sure if he's still registered as a player or not. Obviously, Kolasinac still linked with Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. And then there's two more peculiar players. This is our lead-in to Carabao Cup on Wednesday. Arsenal played them at King Power, and we're all looking not just at the squad that Mikel fielded, which had a lot of turnover, but at his bench, no Mesut Ozil, no Matteo Guendouzi. They've got to be on that out list, don't they not?
Well, I'd assume so, but who knows at the moment? Arteta did say in his press conference afterwards that it's all to do with performance in training. Now we know Mesut and Guendouzi have both been back in training for a couple of weeks now. Even players that have come back from injury, like David Luiz, has been in training for a couple of training sessions, but they're still playing. So realistically, is this a case of Mikel saying to them, look, you're not getting in my matchday squad. Get out the door. I don't want you here. It's the whole thing to me is rather baffling because I know with Guendouzi, he's still got another couple of years on his contract. Obviously, I've made my feelings very clear on him in previous pods. I think that we're potentially looking at loan clubs for him to go to obligation to buy, but he's holding out for the higher standard clubs. So like Barcelona to come back into him, Paris Saint-Germain. Yeah, I think Bayern was in at one point, but it's just a case. I think he's waiting for a proper top tier club, but I don't think that's going to happen for him. I saw just before we come on today that PSG need to sell 60 million pounds worth of player before they can even remotely think about getting anybody in, because they're right up to the limit on their financial fair play, and they don't. Obviously, there's the heat around Man City previously, and before that, PSG has been in trouble regarding the financial fair play. So, if they're not spending money, they're obviously very wary of where that could lead them in future. So they're only looking at loans at the moment. It might be a case of a loan for Guendouzi to PSG, and then we'll see whether they pony up the money next season. In terms of Mesut, obviously the guy divides opinion through the Arsenal fan base. For me, right now, he needs to be on the bench. If we're paying that much to him per week, he needs to be on the bench minimum for me. Because in games, if we're not creating much, then he's a useful option to have on the bench. Ultimately, if he's not even making that, his career for me at Arsenal is done. I don't see Mikel changing the stance on that. He's not going to give in to his non-negotiables. So yeah, it's a difficult one with Mesut. It depends whether he wants to play football or whether he's happy there to collect the money. It seems that both club and player are digging in. But in that instance, nobody really wins. So yeah, it's difficult. But if he was to go out to somewhere, the only real credible link for him has been right at the start of the window with the Turkish clubs that are in for him. The one, where was it? UAE club that come in for him. Saudi club, sorry. But does he want to go there? Probably not. So I don't know. Do the club register him? That's another question that needs answering coming up. If we do bring in Aouar and Partey, do we potentially take the hit on Mesut and say, look, you'll only be used for cup competitions, maybe? It's all very up in the air around him.
Regardless of what happens, it does seem that as a first team option, that door seems to be closed, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
Arsenal did play a match against Leicester in the Carabao Cup. A lot of squad turnover, very kind of sleepy match. Arsenal did come out with a 2-0 decision. Arteta did use a lot of his starters later in the match, and he gave some needed minutes to people like Nicola Pepe. But I want to focus on Eddie Nketiah, who came on very late, decided the match. Again, Arsenal seem to have this under control. as they did with the West Ham match. But the scoreline was 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, and you kept looking at it saying, it's only going to take, one slip, one false pass, one mistake. And we're looking at, I think they have shootouts now in the Carabao Cup. They don't have replays, but there was always that threat. And then Nketiah comes in and just calms everything. And I look at this young man, he's clearly behind Lacazette. I've started to call him the closer. It seems that, Sam, he might be carving a rollout for himself. It seems like he's somebody you can bring in off the bench he was very, very potent and very skilled. His goal was very composed, working in a tight area, kept his balance, kind of hopped between a defender and the keeper, kind of took the ball, stretched out, took the ball right off the keeper's hands and finished the game. He's got something to offer, whether as a starter or as I said, as the closer.
Yeah, definitely. Eddie, I've in my mind, and we've had this discussion previously. Eddie is one that is good to have on the bench, because obviously you're going to need a striker that's fit and able, willing to have that mobility in the final stages to really press defenders into them making mistakes, getting into the box. He offers something a little bit different to what Lacazette does, although Eddie over the last 6 months has come on leaps and bounds in his overall build-up play. He's somebody that I've said I think that he needs a loan out to get a full campaign under his belt in the Premier League. That would be my honest opinion. I think that if the club don't want to go down that route, he's a quality option to have on the bench. There's no two ways about it. I think that he will really push Lacazette this season, because I think if Lacazette has, say, 3 bad games, he's out. I think in terms of that striker position this season, it is going to be a real toss-up between Lacazette and Nketiah. Now, I think I speak for the majority of Arsenal fans that we all want Aubameyang up front, but the way that it's going this season, started this season, I think again we're going to be seeing him out on the left, unless we see a switch in formation. But Eddie, he's going to be some player, but he just needs them next couple of years to really kick on and mature as a striker, and I believe Mikel will get the absolute maximum out of him.
All right, pushed off, but Prem continues, and on Monday, the Prem weekend ends. Big match. Arsenal's tied 6 points. They're going to Anfield. They're going to play Liverpool. They've beaten Liverpool twice in the last few months. And if you look at the circumstances, of course, the Liverpool partisans will say, well, there were reasons for that. We'd already clinched the title in the first instance. Second one was simply the Community Shield. Although, again, if we look at the lineups that were fielded that day, Liverpool had by far the stronger lineup than Arsenal did. Mikel seems to have a way. It's one of these matchups that seems to suit him. Obviously, he's not going to go there looking to be defensive, park the bus. That's not his style with anybody. But, Liverpool looked very good last week, beating Chelsea. They're clearly motivated, whatever injuries or rust they have. They seem to have kind of knocked that off. This is going to be, Arsenal's going to see Liverpool's best by far. But yet, I still look at it and say, I trust my manager. He's going to find a way. I feel a result coming. Win or not, I feel a result coming. I think he's got the squad that confident. They are not phased at all, even though they are playing the champions on their ground. Yeah,
it seems that Mikel has got rid of the fear of playing the the old top 4, top 6. It seems that fear has gone. With Liverpool, they can be got at. There are a few weaknesses in that side, but with their weaknesses, they are very well hidden in terms of Klopp's structure and the way that he wants them to play. I think if the fullbacks are really bombing on, then obviously someone like Aubameyang has to cheat, and you need to double up on him. So, say on the left-hand side, you have Aubameyang cheating, and then you have, say, Kieran Tierney tearing strips up the pitch to do the overlap. That gives Aubameyang that little bit of space. Alternatively, if Ainsley Maitland-Niles plays, he'll, again, with Tierney, make the runs. So the defence are a bit confused as to who to pick up. Again, they drop back with the runners. That's more space for Aubameyang. Personally, I would like to see Nicola Pepe a bit more involved. I hope the goal against Leicester gives him a bit more confidence. But the way that we seem to shape up at the moment, our predominant attacking side is the left-hand side. So Pepe has to get involved in the build-up on the right-hand side before it gets switched over to the left for the final action in the final third. But I'd like to see Mikel switch it up a little bit more, because when we've played Liverpool previously, Pepe had the majority of the defenders on toast. Like, they didn't know how to cope with him because he is that tricky. And I think if we can get direct running at the Liverpool back four, they kind of shit themselves a little bit. So for me, that is one of their weaknesses, because you see with teams, they try and pass it round their back four. Nobody really attacks them one-on-one or has that direct running at them. And to be brave against that Liverpool back four, because we know they are quick, tall, powerful, dominant. But if you've got that direct running and you've already got that momentum behind you, you're slightly in favour. But ultimately, with Liverpool, it's a massive game. To be honest, I'd be happy to come out of Anfield with a point. 3 points is a bonus.
Do you think, he's played both matches 3 at the back, and part of that was necessity. He had injuries. He seems to have a little bit more options now. Gabriel's come in. It seems like David Luiz might be back from his, certainly than any other game. It looks like Kieran Tierney was saved for this match. And in the Community Shield, he had Salah under a blanket, the entire time. Do you think Mikel will stay with what's worked so far, which is that 3-4-3 combination? He's not going to concede. He goes, I've already beaten you twice with this. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I believe he will, but knowing Mikel and how he likes to spring surprises against other teams, I think that in game we could potentially see another formation crop up. But ultimately, why would you change a tried and tested winning formula against Liverpool? Obviously, as you said, Tierney was a precautionary takeout, but with him coming back this weekend, that's a massive plus. Because Kolasinac against the guys up top for Liverpool, I've got no faith. No faith.
Let's be honest.
No. But with Kieran in there, you just feel so much more confident. It's a massive game, and if we can come out with 3 points in this, then props to Arteta. Obviously, for the Carabao Cup match, that's going to be youth. I'm not really bothered about that, to be honest. But for me, 3 points is a must. But if we can come away with a draw leading into the run that we've got, it's a good start in my eyes. And as we always talk about, momentum is key. So, we need to have that momentum going into this run, definitely.
Bold enough to make a prediction? I'll throw one out. I'm going to say 1-1. I'm going to be with you. I think they're going to grab that point.
I would agree, but I'm going more inclined to 2-1 victory.
Okay. Again, they've given us every reason to believe so far, every single reason. Yeah, we want to thank all of you. See, we kind of our numbers are growing as the match went on. We did talk about Aouar at the beginning. We'll wind back. Let's recap. As we know, as you probably know, coming in, Telefoot is talking other chatter. It seems from the French press, it looks like Arsenal and Lyon are haggling on price, that the players agreed terms with Arsenal. According to Telefoot, the player wants to come to Arsenal. It seems, we were discussing from Jean Alas rhetoric that, he's being more abusive towards Arsenal, which can only mean a deal is that far away. We will keep you up to date here. Obviously, we're having pods every Tuesday and Thursday. And actually, this Monday will be 1 week from deadline day. We are planning a big deadline day show, multi-hour deadline day show. We hope to have the whole team available here, and we'll be walking you through, any deals that are left to the 11th hour, ingoings, outgoings. We'll look at the Prem. Obviously, we're going to focus on Arsenal. But, good news, it seems Arsenal is pushing an Aouar, not leaving it to the 11th hour, Sam. That gives them, if they can pull this off by the weekend, boy, that gives them a lot of flexibility going into that final week.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that getting Aouar over the line is crucial. I think I said it on Tuesday's pod that I think that a deal would be done probably by Monday. But ultimately, if we can get that over the line, massive boost to the squad, fan base. There's been a lot of negativity over the social medias, a lot of undeserved abuse towards Edu as well. And for me, Arsenal fans just need to be that little bit more patient. As we've always said, these deals are happening. They're happening in the background. And the thing is that they're not going to be constantly reported on in the newspapers. The newspapers need to have that filler space. So the instance is that they're going to say, oh, this club's coming for Aouar, this club's coming for Partey, and then that causes an uproar in the Arsenal community on socials. It's just a case of trying to read through the lines and ultimately come here and listen to us talk on the deals, So it's just a case of we're in the final stages now. I fully expect this deal to happen and happen quite soon. Outgoings again will be happening. It's just a case of when they'll be happening. Primarily, I believe it will be. I'll probably say about Tuesday to Wednesday onwards. The outgoings. Once we've secured our primary targets, Partey, just to be arseholes towards Atletico Madrid because the way they've conducted themselves with the Torreira deal, I'd go and activate the release clause in the final hours of the window and just go, well, we told you.
And that is something we should talk about. I mean, everybody here is familiar with the terms, and it looks like we haven't talked about Lucas, right? But it looks like Atletico wants him. He wants to go there. They were going to, and then they want to take him on loan, and Arsenal wanted an obligation, and now they're backing out because they think Thomas is going to stay. I think one of the things that we talk about when you link these is as you said, if Arsenal gets Aouar over the line, say by Saturday or Sunday, they have an entire week where they can just dangle that sword over Atletico and say, are we going to pull the trigger now? Are we going to pull the trigger on Friday? Or are we going to do it an hour before the deadline?
Yeah, it's exactly.
Do you really want to take that risk, right? It gives Edu an incredible amount of leverage.
Yeah, and the thing for me with Atletico Madrid is that yes, they're very much interested in Lucas Torreira. It's been well documented that they're on the furlough scheme in Spain, so they can only spend 25% of any monetary income. See, they had the links to Mark Roca, and that was only 10 million to 12 million euros. That was cheap.
Very, very inexpensive deal.
They can't afford it. So I think they've spent the available money that they've had on Luis Suarez, dependent on where you read. Some say that it was a free, some say that it was a nominal fee, like 4 or 5.
I heard 6 million, which is still
6 million.
Peanuts.
Exactly. And you think to yourself, well, they want Lucas Torreira. I saw a Spanish journalist, I'm not sure how reliable it is, saying that they only wanted a dry loan, so that's no options at the end of it, and to pay Arsenal €2 million. And to be perfectly honest, it's a laughable deal, that. Yeah. But it's been, as we say, it's been well documented that Arsenal want Thomas Partey. It makes no sense why we would bend over for Atletico Madrid to go, yeah, you can have Lucas Torreira on a loan with no option or obligation to buy. But then Arsenal ask about Thomas Partey and they go, oh, it's the clause or nothing. It's no benefit to Arsenal whatsoever. There's got to be that give and take in these negotiations. And obviously, Atletico want to stand strong. Like that's fine. But ultimately, all the reports before saying, oh, Arsenal have told Atletico they're not going to trigger the clause, that's literally to keep good faith with them and to keep good negotiations. Now, if they're not going to negotiate in good faith, the clause is there. We've got the money. We can do it. As this podcast has always said, the money's there. It is just a case of it's the squad size that we need to get out at the moment, and we need to shift through three or four players. That will be easily done in the last week of the window. So, yeah, I fully expect to see Thomas Partey and Aouar at the Emirates.
Okay, and something we've hoped for, and we've been pretty confident about it. And stay with us, and we'll all go through this together. And it looks like we're one big step today closer to what we all want, which is Houssem Aouar holding and wearing the Arsenal shirt. All right. That brings us to the end of this Friday podcast. We want to thank you for joining us. A little out of schedule shuffle, but obviously it gives us a day. We didn't have the OR news yesterday. We do have it today. As incomplete as it is, it still looks very, very exciting. So again, join us next Tuesday. If anything comes in, follow us on Twitter at SBTVPod. Sam's Twitter handles up there. Mine is, Ryan's is, Freddie's is. We're all constantly filling in as we see it. But again, we thank you for your support. We thank you for spending your time with us. Come back and see us on Tuesday. And until then, good night.
Aouar a choisi Arsenal, des négociations sont en cours. L'information, pour aller beaucoup plus loin dans cette histoire, c'est que hier, il y a eu la présentation d'une offre officielle d'Arsenal à Lyon. C'est pour ça que